Welcome to the Tibetan Buddhist Society's Sunday morning session. So today's theme is loving kindness. So when we take refuge this morning, consider that it's an act of loving kindness towards yourself and others. So life is anything but safe and reliable. And we need a more sustainable form of happiness that isn't dependent on what happens to us. So we need a happiness that comes from within. And a refuge is a place of safety. So if we practice dharma, we'll find that no matter what happens, we can transform it if we know how. So as an act of loving kindness towards ourselves and others, we'll take refuge in the Triple Gem. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge till enlightenment, by virtue of giving and the like. I shall reach Buddhahood to aid beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge till enlightenment, by virtue of giving and the like. I shall reach Buddhahood to aid beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge till enlightenment, by virtue of giving and the like. I shall reach Buddhahood to aid beings. Now, the motivation to follow the Buddha's teachings is not only to benefit ourselves, but it's to benefit all sentient beings. So before each session, we renew this motivation by reciting the Four Immeasurables. And it's easy to just sing the words, but today we're focusing on loving kindness. So try and really feel loving kindness as you sing. So I think the best way to do this is to actually descend your awareness from your head right into your heart and feel the meaning in the vibrations, sensations of singing as you sing. So we'll just do the Four Immeasurables. May all beings have happiness, and the cause of happiness, may they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering. May we never part from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all beings have happiness, and the cause of happiness, may they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all beings have happiness, and the cause of happiness, may they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering, may they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. Okay, so we'll now start the guided meditation, and I'll start with a very brief body scan to settle the posture and qualified breathing. And this will be the first interval, and it'll only be a fairly brief interval so that I don't run out of time. And the second interval will be a guided meditation on loving kindness. So this is a slightly different style of meditation to calm abiding. It's a discursive meditation. So you need to use a bit of imagination and visualization. So anyway, I'll guide you on that. So we'll start with the first interval. So begin by checking your posture, noticing that the back is straight and your rib cage slightly lifted, and that will allow free passage of air right down to your abdomen. So we'll start with a brief body scan to send your awareness right down to the ground, where your body's in contact with the floor or the cushion or your chair. And feel the sensations of firmness and solidity, the earth element. Rise up through your legs, up to your pelvis, and observe your hands resting in your lap. And your arms right up to your shoulders. So people often feel tightness and tension in their shoulders and in their neck. If you feel any tightness, just gently draw attention to it on the in-breath. And on the out-breath, just release it to gravity. So we'll just do that for a few moments. Now move your attention to the base of your spine. And feel your spine like a flame of enthusiasm. You're here because you want to be here. And your back is nice and straight and it goes up like a flame. Try and make sure your weight is supported from the base of the flame. Don't put unnecessary strain on the top of your back. And finally, move your attention to your head. Now, the face is a magnet of tension. So you may notice that the muscles of your jaw, it might be a bit tight, and the muscles around your eyes, they might feel a bit of strain. So just first of all, make sure your jaw is loose and relaxed. Maybe the slightest hint of a smile. Relax any muscles around your eyes and the eyes themselves. And the meditation we're doing today is a loving kindness meditation. So make sure that your expression reflects the feeling of kindness and look out of your eyes with kindness. Allow your forehead to be spacious and open, which is the opposite of a frown. So every so often during the loving kindness meditation and during the mindfulness of breathing, just check to make sure that all of these elements are present, maybe during a mini break. So now we'll move straight into the qualified rounds of breathing. So start by simply observing your breath. Notice whether it's deep or shallow. Don't try to modify it in any way, just observe it. Is your breath confined to the upper chest? Or does it go right down to the abdomen? Can you feel it in the abdomen? If you can't, there are two things you can do. First of all, you can slightly lift your rib cage and make sure that your belly is loose and relaxed. Secondly, you can take a few deep sighs and completely expand your abdomen to its fullest extent, and then simply release the breath. But try and ensure that your abdomen stays loose and relaxed even on the out breath. So we'll just take a couple of deep breaths now. And now release your breath into its natural rhythm, which means don't draw it in or push it out. Just allow it to be however it is. And while you're doing this, see if you can notice 3 phases of breath. So there's the inhale, then there's a brief retain, which you should feel in the abdomen, and then there's the exhale. And if you can't observe the retain, then don't worry about it. It'll come in its own good time. Just focus on what you do observe. Now on the inhale, make sure that you breathe in something good, something like the kindness of others, the beauty of the environment, or clean, healthy, fresh oxygen. So just breathe in that goodness as white light. And then it infuses into you as red light on the retain. And then on the exhale, you simply release it as smoky blue light. And as you release the breath, release all tightness and tension in your body, and release any thoughts that have come to mind. Release any anger or resentment and any sadness. Breathe in the good and release the difficult emotions. So we'll just do this for a few moments, counting the breaths up to 5 or 10 or however long you can do it without losing concentration. And then after 10 breaths or 5 breaths, however many, just have a brief mini break and check the posture and then go back to it. So we'll just do this for a few moments.
Okay, now we'll move on to the second interval, which is loving kindness meditation. So first we reflect on the problems that can occur when there is no loving kindness. So think of the harm that's caused by anger and hatred. So first of all, think about how it actually affects your own body and your mind. Think about a specific instance, perhaps that happened recently, where you got a bit angry or resentful. And see if you can think of how it actually felt in your body when you were in the grip of anger and resentment. How did it actually feel? Did it make you feel happy? Was it pleasant or unpleasant? Did it make you feel joyful, or did it make you feel a bit tight and constricted? Did it feel healthy or unhealthy? And now consider the behavior that happens as a result of anger and resentment and ill will. So hostility and ill will leads to all manner of destructive behavior to the environment and to other people, wars and killing, violence, along with all the sorrow and grief and regret that comes with it. So think for a while about all the problems that happen when people have ill will in their hearts instead of goodwill. Anger and harsh words that cause loved ones to fall out with each other. And people holding their resentments for years and years, causing so much unnecessary sadness. And then there's also unkind gossip that can happen in the workplace or among friends, and how that undermines people and leads to stress and anxiety. So we have a pandemic of COVID, but there's perhaps an even bigger and more damaging pandemic in our modern world of stress and anxiety, which is just pervasive everywhere. So think about how harmful that is. See very clearly how harmful it is when there's no loving kindness.
Next, reflect on the advantages of having loving kindness. So kindness is goodwill. It's wanting the best for other people and for yourself. It creates empathy and understanding. It creates harmonious relationships and inner peace. People with a benevolent attitude to others, they're welcomed, they're not avoided, and they're trusted. People who are infused with loving kindness, they sleep well, they don't have so many worries. And by acting with loving kindness, you can live and die without regrets. So we've seen very clearly the harm that comes of not having loving kindness and the benefits that come with having loving kindness. So this gives us a very clear motivation to generate and practice loving kindness. So we'll now generate loving kindness, starting with ourselves. So we start with ourselves because you won't be able to love other people if you're filled with self-hatred. Then there'll be no love to share. So reflect for a moment on your own good qualities, because we usually focus on our own shortcomings. So we need to balance that and make sure that we do recognize that we have good qualities as well. So this could be your good intention, it could be your abilities and your behavior. These are your lovable qualities. If you find it difficult to see yourself as worthy of love, because self-esteem can be a bit of a problem these days, try picturing yourself as you were when you were a little child, full of hopes and fears, and very vulnerable. So try to visualize that child in front of you. Does that child deserve to be happy? Is that child worthy of love? And the answer is, of course, it's worthy of love. And you can still feel that vulnerable little child inside of you in the present moment. A child who wants to be happy and is worthy of being loved. You want to be happy, everyone does. the main question to ask is what will make you truly happy? So consider what you need to make you thrive, and don't ignore the mundane things, because good health and a safe environment, all of these things are very important, and they're also very beneficial to Dharma practice. But beyond mundane needs, what else will make you truly happy? So for myself, a healthy mind that can accommodate the ups and downs of life, I think that that would be very beneficial to my happiness. So what do you need to cultivate that kind of happiness? And what you might need is perhaps a Dharma teacher who can guide you. And you also need the opportunity to practice. So try to think, both mundane and spiritual, what do you need to make you happy? We'll just reflect on that for a moment. When you've identified what you need to make you happy, fill yourself with the thought, may I be well, may I be happy. May I be free from hatred. May I be safe. May I find the true cause of happiness. And feel this goodwill in your heart and tap into it on the in-breath. And on the out-breath, try to extend it throughout your body into every single cell of your being. Feel the goodwill on the in-breath, and on the out-breath, may I be well, may I be happy, filling your being. Once you feel full of benevolence towards yourself, full of the aspiration to find happiness and the true cause of happiness, then you gradually extend that aspiration outwards to others. So it's like you're a cup and you're full to the brim with loving kindness. And because you're full to the brim, you can allow it just to spill over and share with others. So we do this incrementally. We start with people who are easy to love, that it's easy to see their lovable qualities. So you can choose one of your loved ones, a family member or a close friend, and visualize them in front of you, or just feel their presence in front of you. So generate this first. So now you've found your person. Ask yourself, what are their lovable qualities? What do you most admire about this person? And just like you observed the child in yourself, observe the child in this other person as well. See that just like you, they have hopes and fears, and they're vulnerable to hurt and suffering. Feel their suffering, their vulnerability to suffering in your heart. And generate the thought, may you, like myself, may you be truly well and happy. May you find the true cause of happiness. And on the in-breath, tap into those feelings of goodwill in your heart, and on the out-breath, feel it permeate your body and extend out to this other person. So just do this for a few moments. And after you've done this, you can extend this feeling of goodwill even further outwards to people that you feel neutral towards. They're neutral people. You have no feelings for them one way or the other. You don't care about them one way or the other. So visualize a casual acquaintance or someone you don't know that well, and feel their presence in front of you, just like you felt with yourself as a child and the person that you loved. Visualize this neutral person. And first, attend to their admirable qualities. Know that just like you, they have hopes and fears, joys and sorrows. Just like you, they're vulnerable to suffering. So feel this goodwill arise in your heart and breathe it out to them. May you be well. May you be happy, just like me. And then finally, we move to the difficult people. So these are the people we feel threatened by, we feel hostile towards. And this can be people in our own lives who we interact with, who are difficult, or it can be people on the world stage. And it could be a single person, or it could be a group of people, so like the enemy in a war. But I think that it's most productive for this particular exercise to choose someone that you have a personal difficulty with. So choose someone hostile and feel their presence in front of you. Now, we usually exaggerate the bad qualities of our enemies and we ignore the good things about them. So we need to balance this distorted view because no one is 100% bad. Everyone has some good qualities. So see if you can see any good qualities about this person and focus on them. Can you remember anything good they've ever done? No one's bad. No one's badly behaved 100% of the time. know that the only reason people sometimes behave badly is because of their mental afflictions. And we suffer from the same mental afflictions that they do. That person may cause all sorts of harm, but we share the same hopes and fears. Just like us, they want to be happy and not unhappy. And however misguided they are about what will make them, what they believe will make them happy, they too are vulnerable to suffering. That's why they do what they do. So if you manage to generate a feeling of kindness for them, extend it to them now as before. But even if you're unable to feel kindness towards them, reflect that happy people cause less harm than unhappy people. And if for no other reason than that, may they be well, may they be happy. Okay, well, I've gone over time already, so sorry about that, but I'll just have to do what I can do to catch up, but if not, I'm apologetic. So anyway, I hope everyone found that the guided meditation on loving kindness useful, and if anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat. I've also uploaded a few references that I found very useful for loving kindness on the chat as well. So if anyone wants to have a look at them, they can. So we'll begin by requesting teachings, and I hope that anything that I say will make sense to people and it will be of some benefit. So just quickly request teachings now. According to, according to the intelligence and predisposition of each being, we ask that you turn the dharma wheel of great, low, and common vehicles. Now, the Dalai Lama says that my religion is kindness. So this is why I wanted to give a talk on loving kindness today, because it's what Dharma is all about. So I'll start by sharing one of my earliest experiences of putting loving kindness into practice. So this was a time when I was asked to do something that I really didn't want to do. And I'm sure everyone's had that experience before. So I was asked to participate in an extracurricular activity that, first of all, I thought it was a complete waste of time and I'd rather do something else. And secondly, I was being asked to share something that was a bit personal, and I really didn't feel like anyone had the right to ask me to do that. Anyway, I tried to get out of it, but I couldn't. And I could have spat the dummy, but I decided that would have ruined everyone's day. And it would have been destructive in other ways too. So I decided, oh, well, I'll just do it and I'll put a good face on it. So that's what I did. So outwardly, I participated and I smiled, but inwardly, I felt quite upset and resentful. So even though I was doing what I was doing with the right intentions to promote harmonious relationships between myself and others, it made me feel like my own behavior was fake. So my outer and inner behavior were not in harmony, they were in conflict. So anyway, lots of angry feelings sort of welled up inside me, and there was this sort of unpleasant flavor to everything, like everything had just gone sour. And I knew that these feelings were coming from inside of me, but that I was blaming other people for it. So things that were external to me. So I thought, this is no good. I'm meant to be a Dharma practitioner. So how can I just sit back and allow my resentment to ruin everything? So I thought, well, what's the solution? It's loving kindness. That's meant to be the solution to anger and resentment, which is what I'm feeling. So that's the theory. So I decided to try and put it into practice. So I sat there and meditated, and first filled myself up with loving kindness for my own well-being, and that also I would be relieved of these feelings of anger and resentment. I wanted these destructive feelings to subside. And from my heart, I filled myself with the thought, may I be well, may I be happy. And then I picked the person I felt most upset with, and I sort of felt her presence in front of me. And as I said during the meditation, when we're upset with people, we tend to exaggerate their bad qualities. So I paid particular attention to the good things about her. And I tried to feel her hopes and her fears. And I knew that just like me, she wanted to be happy and she didn't want to suffer. So then I did the same for her as I did for me. And I said, may you be well, may you be happy. And I felt it radiating out of my heart to fill her. So I kept on doing this. So the first thing that I observed was that I saw that her intention was good. So I knew this already. It was the thing that was most obvious about the situation. So even though I believed it was a total waste of time, she believed it would be useful. And then the next thing I saw was that she was actually giving up her time to do this. And that was actually an act of generosity because it was an extracurricular activity. So even though I thought it was a waste of time, I thought, well, that's kind of her. It's kind of her to be so generous. And next I saw how she would feel if I repaid her generosity with anger and resentment. So I'd sort of triggered a little spark of gratitude in me. And I sort of thought, well, how would she feel if she could see my inner world of anger and resentment? How hurt would that make her feel? So that was empathy kicking in. And I felt her vulnerability to being hurt. And I felt it like it was my own. So that was what did it for me. I knew in that moment that no matter what, I didn't want her to feel hurt like that, and that my objections were trivial in comparison. So the value of the activity was totally beside the point. So in that moment, I resolved to wholeheartedly repay her act of generosity with my own willingness. So not long after that, I had a very brief conversation with a Dharma teacher, and he asked, "Oh, how are things going?" And I said, "Oh, I've had a few problems lately, but it's okay. I found the solution, and it was loving kindness." And he replied to me, "It usually is." And so it was very simple, just 3 words, but it had quite a lot of impact on me, because I thought, it usually is. That means that the answer to most of our problems is loving kindness. So this is an area we really need to upskill in. We really need a lot more loving kindness if the answer to most of the world's problems is loving kindness. So, yeah. So anyway, this was one of the first times I actually applied loving kindness to a situation, and it was a very easy situation really to apply it to, because the intention of the other person, it was obviously a good intention. So it wasn't too hard. But what if the other person's intention is selfish? So when someone harms someone else to get what they want, it's easy to put yourself above that other person. It's easy to feel moral superiority and self-righteousness. And so how do we deal with this? And I found one of the easiest ways of dealing with it is to reflect that whatever of the 5 poisons and all their numerous derivatives, whatever of these 5 poisons they're suffering from, none of them is unknown to me. So greed, competitiveness, anger, jealousy and pride, all of these emotions, I've probably felt them. Well, I have felt them. So how can I put myself above the other person when that other person has sometimes been me? So it's the mental affliction that's the problem and not the other person. And at the heart of these mental afflictions is I. So it's self-centeredness and it's self-cherishing. So I want this, I don't want that, and I'm the most important. So how many people can say that they don't experience this on a daily basis? We might not always act on it, but we almost certainly feel it. So when someone acts with a selfish motivation, how can we despise them for an emotion that we know only too well ourselves? So this means that even when people act selfishly, we can empathize because we know what it feels like, because we have in ourselves the same wanting of this vulnerable little I. We have our vulnerable little I still wants to be happy. But as Dharma practitioners, we know that it's misguided to think that we're actually going to become happy by acting selfishly. So it may result in temporary triumphs and temporary pleasures, but it won't actually be sustainable. So selfish patterns of behavior, they lead to feelings in the long term of discontent and dissatisfaction, and it'll create enemies and probably self-loathing. So when we say, may all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness is actually to release self-centeredness, to expand that sphere of caring outwards to others. And that's exactly what the Four Immeasurables do. So they expand your feeling of caring. So the Buddha's mind is often described as being as vast as space. It's immeasurable. But when your concern is focused on the I, then that vast space just collapses in on you. And it makes you feel tight and constricted. So that's where all our tightness and tension come from. And it's the reason we get stressed and anxious. So the Four Immeasurables make people happier by dissolving the very thing that makes them vulnerable to suffering in the first place. And that's over concern with I, me, and mine. So we need to be very clear about what loving kindness is and what loving kindness isn't. So I have a definition here that I'll read to you. Loving kindness is not a fleeting display of emotion, but a sustained and habitual mental attitude of service, goodwill, and friendship, which finds expression in deed, word, and thought. So at its core, it's a mental attitude. And the attitude is immeasurable because it's directed to all sentient beings without exception. So regardless of status, species, ethnicity, regardless of whether their behavior is good or bad. It's also immeasurable because it's limitless. There's no limit to the number of beings that it can be directed towards. So it encompasses all beings throughout all of existence. So that's what loving kindness is. We also have to look at what loving kindness is not. So each of the four immeasurables has what's known as a near enemy and a far enemy. So the near enemy is something that looks like loving kindness but isn't. So this is self-centered attachment. And it means that it's easy to be kind to someone who's kind to you, or if they're useful to you, or if they're attractive in some way. So it's a sort of reciprocal arrangement. You expect something in return. It also means that there's a subtle anxiety about that kind of relationship because you're afraid that you might lose that person or you might not get that reciprocal arrangement. So anyway, that's what self-centered attachment is. The far enemy of loving kindness is its opposite. So that's ill will or hatred. So the attitude of ill will is, may you not be well, may you not be happy, and may you fail. So that's not very nice, is it? So Buddhaghosa has a wonderful description of all the sentiments that a person has for their enemy. He said, let him be ugly. Let him lie in pain. Let him have no good fortune. Let him not be wealthy. Let him not be famous. Let him have no friends. And let him not, on the breakup of his body after death, reappear in a happy destiny in the heavenly world. So that sounds pretty nasty. Now, if you react to your enemy's hostility with your own ill will, it's very likely that you'll fulfill all these bad wishes that your enemy has for you. So fortitude and loving kindness are the better option. So fortitude or patience, it sort of operates in tandem with loving kindness because it gives you the strength to restrain yourself instead of retaliating while you consider the most beneficial response. So really the most important thing to remember is that you can't feel love and hate at the very same time. So for any emotion related to aversion, like being judgmental or hating or resenting or criticizing people or hostility, whatever you're feeling, the remedy is loving kindness because it actually replaces the hatred. So the nuts and bolts of actually how to generate loving kindness. Each of the four immeasurables has a trigger that causes it. And according to Buddhaghosa, seeing the lovableness in beings is what causes loving kindness to arise in you. So, as I said before, we usually focus on faults, so we just have to find out what those admirable qualities are. He also says that it needs to be developed by using yourself as an example, which is why it's so important to extend loving kindness to yourself first. So he says that reflect, just as I want to be happy and dread pain, As I want to live and not to die, so do other beings. Then desire for other beings' welfare and happiness arises. So this is very much about cultivating empathy. In the example I gave of my own experience, I didn't find the other person lovable because she was attractive or because she was doing what I wanted her to do. Quite the opposite, she was doing what I didn't want her to do and preventing me from doing what I wanted to do instead. Loving kindness arose in me when I felt her vulnerability to being hurt, and this made me feel tenderness towards her. It made me feel like I didn't want her to be hurt. It made me want to be kind to her and protect her from hurt. So I wanted her to be happy. So feeling the vulnerability of others as if it were your own, that's what triggers it for me. And it doesn't matter how well or badly someone behaves. This way of thinking can be applied to absolutely everyone. We sometimes say, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. And why is that? It's because we know how much that would hurt. And we don't want anyone, not even our worst enemy, to feel that amount of hurt. We want them to feel happy, and that's loving kindness. So this can also be expressed as, may you find authentic happiness and its true cause. And the true cause is the sustainable happiness found in dharma and the triple gem. So it's understanding the true nature of reality and acting in accordance with that. And I don't know about you, but I definitely feel that I would like all the difficult people in the world to find that kind of happiness, because then they won't behave so destructively. They won't harm other people and the environment. So it's not actually very hard to hope that all the difficult people in the world find that true cause of happiness. On the other hand, that's a little bit of a selfish motivation, that if they're happy, they won't harm us. But I think it's okay as a stepping stone. If there's someone you really can't feel kindness towards, at least that way you're not wishing them unhappiness. So I hope that makes sense. What next? Oh, yes. Another approach is to difficult people is the analogy of the mother and child. So no matter how badly the little child behaves, no matter its temper tantrum, the mother wants the child to be happy. And it's not the behavior that's important, it's the vulnerable little creature inside, which behaves like a child because it is one. And we are all childish sentient beings, and occasionally we all chuck a temper tantrum. We all slip into childish behavior occasionally. So we have to be tolerant towards that, because we can see the child's potential. We know that it's only transient and that one day that little child will grow up. So there are a number of different methods to actually meditate on loving kindness, and there are too many to cover in this talk. But the traditional methods follow the same general pattern. So just as we did in the meditation today, you start by reflecting on the problems with not having loving kindness and the advantages of having loving kindness. And that sort of stimulates the motivation in you to really want to generate it and to practice it. And when you generate loving kindness, as I said, you're meant to start with yourself. The Buddha said, I visited all quarters with my mind, and I found no one dearer than myself. Self is likewise most dear to every other person. Whoever loves himself will never harm another. So the message here is that low self-esteem won't help you to benefit other people. You won't be able to love other people as much as yourself if you have no love for yourself. So you have to work on yourself first. You want to be happy, Everyone does. No one wants to be unhappy. And also look at the goodness in you. Even if you don't succeed all the time, you do try. And that's a lovable quality. So the main question you have to ask yourself is what will make you truly happy? And when you've identified that, you fill that thought, you fill yourself with the thought, may I be truly well and happy? May I not feel hatred? May I not feel mental afflictions? May they all dissolve? And may I find the true cause of happiness? And then just as we did in this meditation, we then gradually extend that sentiment outwards, first of all to the easy people, and then the harder people and the harder people. So we do it incrementally. Another way of doing it is to send your awareness and feeling of loving kindness in all the cardinal directions. So feeling it out this way, behind you, to the side, above and below, and then all around you equally. So that's another way of doing it. Another way of doing it is to do it in a sort of more geographical way. So you start with yourself and then extend to everyone who's in the same room with you, and not just human beings, but beings that you don't even know are there, insects and any sentient beings at all. And then you extend to your whole household, and then maybe your street, your neighborhood, your town, your country, and then you extend to the whole world. And then you can even go cosmic and sort of extend to the whole universe, as far out as your awareness can extend. Okay, so that almost wraps up the talk, but I was thinking that a talk on loving kindness wouldn't be complete without a quote from Shantideva's Bodhisattva Way of Life. So I'll finish up here with 2 verses, and they come from chapter 8. So, I should eliminate the suffering of others because it is suffering, just like my own suffering. I should take care of others because they are sentient beings, just as I am a sentient being. When happiness is equally dear to others and myself, then what is so special about me that I strive after happiness for myself alone? So that just about wraps up the talk. Now I'm in the Zoom and I can't see any questions here. So I don't know if there are any questions in the chats of the YouTube or anything, but if there are, I'll see if I can respond to them at a later date. But we'll just wrap up here with the dedication of merit. And I'm hoping that what we've said and done today will help loving kindness to grow in ourselves and others. So we'll now do the dedication of merit. By this merit may we overcome the defilements and gain omniscience. May I liberate all beings from the ocean of birth, old age, sickness, death. Hearing the Mahayana teachings, whatever merit I have accrued, may all beings become stainless vessels to hold the Mahayana teachings. Courageous Manjushri knew all things, and Samantabhadra did likewise, following all of their examples. I shall dedicate all these merits. May the excellent Bodhicitta Take root where it has not yet done so. Where it has been born, may it increase freely without degeneration. I've got a quick question from Kath. Next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, there's a workshop on emotional intelligence. And on Tuesday, people can come in person to celebrate Sakadawa at Holder, and you can also do it online. If you want to come in person, I think you've actually got to register on the website. That's right, isn't it? I think I was asked to register.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you don't have to. Just turn up. Yeah. Okay.
I think it's not the Zoom link.
Right.